Stop, you haven't subscribed to the channel yet. Subscribe now, we have new stories every day. Now let's go. I was at my desk savoring a mid-morning coffee my assistant had brought over, though she'd sweeten it with that artificial stuff. I have joked that if she kept using it, I'd switch to black tea. My mind, though, was wrapped around a thorny copyright issue meeting swift resolution, but as usual, the federal office was dragging its feet with the release of sensitive documents. It felt like each paper had to pass through a dozen hands before any real action was taken. I was stuck, unable to push forward on the next project, and facing potential financial losses if these items had to be scrapped. The rise of bureaucratic red tape and shifting regulations was making even the simplest tasks complex. I felt every bit of my age, like this was a young man's game now. "There's a young woman here to see you," said Sarah, stepping into my office. She didn't have a name, just this, she said, handing me a photo. My stomach dropped as I glanced at it. "Son of a gun," I muttered. "Of all days, why now?" It was an old wedding photo, nearly 18 years old, showing me and Diana, my ex-wife. Seeing it stirred up memories of betrayal, heartbreak, and all the assumptions people made when I'd returned back then, licking my wounds. Back then, I didn't understand power or money, but I'd learned. "Ask her if she's Anna or Emma Bright," I told Sarah, handing her a USB in a Ziploc bag. "If she is, show her the video on that end. If she wants a copy, let her have it. Bring the original back to me, though." At 42, I'd embraced being a bachelor. My short-lived marriage to Diana Warren had shattered my trust. People had to earn it now, and most just couldn't. I was 6 feet 4 inches, 200 pounds, with a 38-inch waist. I kept in shape, spending 2 hours in the gym after work. My hair, a brownish black, was starting to gray a bit, but I could still turn a few heads. I kept things casual, no serious relationships, marriage and love just weren't for me anymore. An hour later, Sarah came back, leaving the door slightly open. "She still got questions," she said, her face set, her green eyes staring right at me, waiting for me to explain. "So, do you know which one it was?" I asked. "Emma," she replied, and she said they'd been lied to all their lives. "She's devastated," she cried, saying they were all missiled. "If my hunch is correct, you might have been too." Emma, I explained, was part of a set of twins. The clip you watch held her mother's last words to me, right before our first divorce hearing, months before they were born. I'd only learned about them through friends. Diana had kept her pregnancy from me. The rest of what's on that USB outlines what would happen if I ever attempted contact. Diana's father, once high up in the CIA, had me fired from the FBI with falsified charges. He'd always hated me. The record suggests there's a contract on my life if I interfere with them. She divorced me to marry my former best friend, someone she'd been seeing for months, and he's likely the twins' biological father. How'd she even find me, and what does she want? I asked, perplexed. Emma had discovered an old photo in their attic with my name scribbled on it, then Googled me, recognizing who I was. She also found the marriage certificate and divorce papers. Tracing me through Facebook and other web searches, she was ultimately seeking a bone marrow match for her twin sister, who's running out of time. "But why come to me?" I replied, "I'm not their father. It doesn't add up." Apparently, Emma had sensed something wasn't right. Her suspicions led to DNA tests during the bone marrow screening, which revealed their so-called father wasn't biologically related. Sarah gave me a knowing look, her expression softening. "If Emma's right, it means Diana lied to you all those years ago," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I knew she was yours the second I saw it," Sarah added, standing up. "It's something in the look. Send the info on that USB to my publishers," I said, already planning. "Tell them to make sure it's released without any connection to my name, and that it has to go public quickly. I want it known, but I can't have it traced back to me. Then, arrange a fast DNA tests and get me an appointment. If I'm their father, I want it on paper before I confront Diana. And if that's true, find me a lawyer. I'll need one to fight for my rights. Clear my schedule. I need to get to the hospital where Anna's being treated." "Got it," Sarah replied, already turning to leave. "All right, let's meet Emma," I called out. Sarah ushered her in, and the moment I laid eyes on her, I knew. She had a striking resemblance to my younger sister at 16, and I choked up, emotion flooding over me. We both started tearing up. Sarah quietly snapped a few pictures with her phone to capture the moment, then left us to talk. "You and Emma had a 1 o'clock appointment for blood testing. They promised a quick result, and I charged it to the corporate card," Sarah informed me when she returned. "Also, I've set up a meeting with Claire, your sister, at cells around 3. I booked a private table. Emma should see what we do, and Claire's kids are taken care of. She knows you have important family news." I stood there, looking at Emma as she approached, feeling emotions I hadn't felt in years. I held her close, trying to take in this sudden reality. There were so many questions racing through my mind. We left my office side by side, each of us cautious but hopeful, taking slow steps to figure out this newfound connection. After arranging for the clinic to email us the results, we headed out for a late lunch, uncertain but ready to face whatever lay ahead. I found out that Emma had skipped school and driven for hours, finally stopping to rest at a station. I was pretty ticked off she'd done something that risky but bit back my anger, feeling the twinge of an overprotected dad, even though I hadn't fully embraced that role yet. It reminded me of something I might have done myself at her age. When we arrived at Sells, I spotted my sister Claire's car parked out front. "I know we're here to meet your sister," Emma said, "but why did Sarah set this up without calling you in first?" "You'll see in a second," I replied. "What Sarah and I saw when we first met you, that's why we're here. It'll make it clear why we believe you and Anna are my daughters." The test confirmed what I had hoped. "Can I call you Dad?" Emma asked, grinning shyly. I couldn't help but laugh, nodding. "I'd love that." Sells was a cozy family-owned restaurant, a notch above the usual with a good reputation and a warm atmosphere. The owner greeted us and took us straight to our private booth. I ordered a bottle of champagne and a box of tissues. I had a feeling we'd need them. Claire was already there, her back to us, so I told Emma to wait while I went over. "Hey sis," I said, catching her eye as she looked up. "Thanks for coming." Claire smiled. "You look way too happy. What's going on? Stand up." "There's someone I want you to meet," I said, gesturing for Emma to come over. "Claire, this is Emma, Diana's daughter." Claire turned stunned, her expression shifting as she took in Emma's face. They looked eerily alike, long brown hair, high cheekbones, and those same light blue eyes. "Oh my goodness," Claire gasped. "Trevor, you could have warned me. This is unreal." 5 hours, Emma said with a nervous laugh. "That's how long I've known him. I just surprised him in his office, and Sarah and Dad recognized me immediately. And seeing you, I get why now." The server brought tissues just in time as emotions swirled around us. Claire wiped away tears, then called her husband to join us. She also contacted our parents, saying it was a family emergency. Our mom pressed her for details, but Claire just said it was something they needed to see for themselves. Shortly after, I got a text from Sarah. The publisher had released the information, and it would air on the 6 o'clock news. We just settled down with our first glass of champagne when Claire's husband arrived with our parents. I chuckled as I heard my dad's voice booming from across the restaurant. "This had better be good," he called out. When they reached our table, I stood to greet them. "Mom, Dad, Lou," I said, "I'd like you to meet Diana's daughter, Emma." My mom gasped, instantly seeing the resemblance, a huge smile spreading across her face. She'd always wanted a granddaughter, and now here she was. My dad, usually unshakable, was left speechless. "Eventually," he managed. "I see it, but I still can't believe it." Mom sat beside Emma, taking her hand, too choked up to see much. My dad ordered 2 more bottles of champagne, his pride unmistakable. With glasses refilled, I stood to make an announcement. "I want to explain," I began, as Emma started recording with my phone. I recounted how Emma and I had met earlier that day and what had happened. Then my dad stood, addressing Emma directly. "Emma, we don't need a DNA test to confirm what's already obvious. Welcome to the family. You'll get to meet your other aunt soon. Just promise you'll always think of this family as your home." Emma took the phone and spoke into it, visibly moved. "I came here to find out the truth. I wasn't sure what I'd discover, but today it has changed everything for my dad and me. Until now, I never really knew what family meant. Meeting at Claire showed me what real, unconditional love is, and I know my twin sister Anna will feel the same." I glanced around the table, watching as the moment hit each person. Even my dad, who rarely showed his feelings, had tears in his eyes. Mom raised her fingers, mowing the word "to," and we all laughed through our tears. Emma added her inner sister's info in my contacts. Ben texted Anna, including a video clip of the days of events. Her message read, "If what we think is true, the DNA test will confirm it. Watch the 6 o'clock news. Love, your twin." My mom, still overwhelmed, asked if it was all real. Emma showed her photos of herself and Anna, and Mom eagerly asked for copies, displaying them proudly on her laptop for everyone to see. After a bit, Emma put her phone away, and I realized no one back home knew where she was. Just then, my phone rang. It was Anna. I stepped away to take the call, noticing my dad's questioning look. "It's my sister," Emma mouthed. My dad nodded and I answered, "Hello, this is Anna. I just saw the video and had to call. I won't be home until 7 or so. I'm stopping at the police station for an update on Emma. The police came by earlier and left their card. Any idea what I should do? Tell them to watch the 6 o'clock news and see what's revealed about me." Ben let him know you'll talk when your parents aren't around and show in the video if you need to. Give him my number and ask him to text before calling. After they see the news, they'll understand. Once we confirm with DNA, Emma and I might bring everyone together. Everyone, Anna asked. Family, I said simply. In the Patterson family, blood ties mean everything. If I'm not a match, maybe someone else will be. You think so? Anna sounded doubtful. No question about it. I replied with a small laugh. You'll see. We're strangers now, but not for long. We talked at it more before hanging up. After we ordered dinner, I explained to everyone why Emma was here. Soon, phones were buzzing as family members reached out, spreading the word and rallying potential donors. My mom took over, organizing everything as only she could. Emma, how'd you get here? My dad asked. Eyebrows raised. I drove my old '94 Voyager van, she said with a laugh. It's barely a step above a renderer. It's parked in Dad's lot. Well, that van's not going to cut it, Dad replied, shaking his head. First thing tomorrow, take it over to my dealership. You're not driving back in that thing. I chuckled. At her age, Dad, you had about as much sense as she does. She's got grit, he said with a grin. So what do you plan to get her? I asked. Let her pick, he replied, winking. Emma's face lit up. If I could choose, I'd get a 4x4. I'm all about the outdoors, she said eagerly. My dad chuckled. Well, that's the family for you. Outdoors is our thing. If it was warm, we were out fishing, camping, or hiking. He started reminiscing about that summer I learned to water ski and barefoot, sharing stories like he was on a roll. Both my parents insisted Emma stay with them overnight, thinking it would look better than her staying with me. After dinner, Dad drove her to pick up her van and brought it back to his place, while Mom started planning all the ways she could spoil her new granddaughter. Around 10 p.m., I got a call from the police investigator. He said it had taken him a couple of hours to run a background check on me, as the media was buzzing with questions about the story we'd released. We talked through the situation, and I explained that we were waiting DNA confirmation and that Emma was with my parents. I let him know that as soon as we had the confirmation, I'd take her back to see if I could be a match for Anna. He agreed to buy us some time and promised to update me if anything changed. Later, I found out he'd passed this information on to Anna, keeping her in the loop. Confronting my past felt different this time. I wasn't intimidated by my ex-wife's family or the sway they held. I had the truth on my side, and I was prepared to use the media, the courts, and every piece of evidence we gathered. It wasn't revenge I wanted, it was justice and a chance to set things right. The next morning, I went to my office to make sure my absence wouldn't disrupt anything, leaving Sarah in charge. She checked emails like a hawk, grilling me about every detail of the day. I couldn't help but admire her. She was striking with her naturally styled brown hair, emerald green eyes, and an ageless elegance that still caught attention. Although I sometimes felt a pain of attraction, I was grateful she never caught me staring. Finally, she received the DNA results and printed them, her voice barely containing excitement. Trevor, she said, it's confirmed. You're her father. Sarah immediately called the lab to send the results to Anna's specialist and started searching for the top litigation lawyer in New York. After a thorough vetting, she found one willing to work on a contingency, confident in the strength of the case. With the DNA proof, we would go after my ex-wife, her husband, and her family for denying me my parental rights. The restrictive order barring me from seeing my daughters would be overturned, exposing the deliberate manipulation that had been carried out over the years. Our lawyer saw a huge opportunity even before taking on the government's involvement. I told Sarah to send a dusty gray box from my safe to the lawyer. It contained hard evidence showing how Diana's father had tried to destroy my career and marriage. It had taken years to gather these documents from various government sources, but now they'd finally come to light. Then news broke out. The video the police officer had released painted a powerful story of a runaway daughter reuniting with her father to save her sister's life, and the media frenzy began. When I called my mom, I felt overwhelmed. Mom, I said, it's official. I'm a father twice over. Thank God, she cried. I'll spread the word. Be ready to leave at 7 tomorrow morning from the car lot. We were soon on the road to Igo, New York, in a fully loaded 2-year-old Ford Explorer, with my parents following in a tour bus and 33 other cars trailing behind us. Our family and quite a few friends were on a mission. As we drove, my phone rang. Emma answered, putting it on speaker. You're being tracked by CNN, and his voice came through, and we all greeted her. Yeah, there's a big tour bus up front with a banner saying, the Williams are coming. 1 out of 141 might be a match. Well, we've got the DNA test proving these are father, Emma replied, sounding proud. Dad said if it was confirmed, the family would rally, but I didn't expect this. Anna's voice softened. It gives me hope, more than I ever imagined. I met a bunch of relatives this morning, first, second, even third cousins. It's hard to believe. I'm so proud I want to change my last name to Williams, Emma said with a hand of wonder. I never knew families like this existed. I was so emotional, I nearly went off the road. That's when I knew I had to write this in my next book. Anna had to cut our call short when her mother entered the room, but Emma could sense my emotions and asked, "Dad, are you all right? How do you think I feel?" I replied, "I just discovered I have 2 daughters raised by my ex-wife and an old friend behind my back. One of them is vibrant and full of life, while the other's fighting for hers. Emma, you've been strong and independent, moving mountains on your own, just like I would have done. And now you want to carry my name," I added, my voice breaking. Emma squeezed my hand. "I was so focused on saving my sister that I didn't consider what this would mean for you," she said quietly. "I wasn't a good match for Anna because of a defective gene from her mom. I'm sorry for the chaos I've brought." "Chaos?" I said with a smile, tears filling my eyes. "You've given us all a new reason to care, Emma. You've given me a chance to be a dad. Your grandparents already adore you, and seeing your mom's face in yours means the world to them. You've both become pride and joy." Emma laughed. "She's already been spoiling us. If she bought me something, she'd get a matching one for Anna too, just to make up for lost time." "That's Mom," I replied, chuckling, "and good luck trying to keep her at arm's length." "Trust me, I've tried. Claire and my sisters will be talking about this for ages. It's the kind of family legend they'll be passing down for years." We soon heard that Diana had seen the newsfeed and had a panic attack. Her carefully constructed world was unraveling. Anna, feeling emboldened, confronted her right away. "Mom," Anna demanded, "why did you hide the truth about our real dad?" Diana was silent, caught off guard. Anna pressed on, her voice thick with emotion. "You hid the truth from us, made decisions about our lives. Who gave you the right to decide? Even Dad didn't know. If Emma hadn't dug for the truth, would you have let me die?" Diana had no response, never expecting her secrets to see the light of day. Her father's vendetta against me had pushed him to drastic lengths, severing my connection to my daughters. Just then, Anna's doctor entered, providing a much-needed distraction. We received DNA from a man we hadn't known before, proving he's Anna's biological father. He'll be here tomorrow for testing, and he may be a bone marrow match. For his safety, we've arranged for security. Mom, my biological dad is on his way, along with 140 others, in case he's not a match. He's willing to risk his life to save mine, Anna told her. "Why?" Diana asked, her voice barely a whisper. "To him and his family, blood is thicker than water," Anna replied. "I may be a stranger, but to them, I'm family, and family always comes first. You should have known. We look just like our biological grandmother. Here, watch this video. It proves everything." Diana watched the video, showing my family meeting Emma for the first time. She couldn't deny it. 3 generations of shared features and expressions were there, undeniable. The evidence was in front of her, and her attempts to hide the truth were crumbling. Then, a man appeared at Anna's doorway, asking for Diana. She admitted who she was, and he handed her a large legal envelope. "You've been served," he said. Diana felt her knees, sobbing, but Anna, filled with anger, felt no sympathy. "Mom, why did Grandpa put a contract out on my biological dad's life?" Anna demanded, though she knew she wouldn't get an answer. Meanwhile, Fred Bright, Diana's father, had just left the corporate meeting when he, too, was served legal papers. He sat down in the reception area, opening the documents. The first was a lawsuit against him and his wife for obstructing my parental rights. The second accused him and his family of conspiring to destroy my marriage and career. It was clear that I wasn't seeking revenge. I was fighting for justice and the right to be in my daughters' lives. If Emma hadn't come forward, I would have never known they existed. I argued that Diana and Justin's secrecy could have cost Anna her life. With the media coverage, defending themselves in court would be difficult. Fred recalled his college days when we were roommates and football teammates, both of us vying for Diana's attention. I'd eventually won her over, and he'd even served as my best man. Yet, Diana's father never approved of me, given my background. When Justin eventually sided with Fred, they set things into motion. Justin and Diana grew close while I was often away on FBI assignments. Eventually, their affair began while I was on an undercover mission. When I returned, Diana's father confronted me with the evidence, and I filed for divorce immediately, not knowing she was pregnant with the twins. When Emma and I finally arrived at our hotel that night, it was close to 9. We'd been on the road for over 14 hours, and everyone was exhausted. We ordered a quick meal to our rooms and got some much-needed sleep until our 5 a.m. wake-up call. Emma and I set out early as I had a private meeting with a police officer and an FBI representative, while the rest of the family left around 7 for the final stretch. Emma dropped me off at the Igo Police Department, where I met Detective Peter Rogers and FBI agent Chad Garrido. We discussed Diana's father's long-standing interference and the legal steps I was pursuing. I left them with my lawyer's contact information and a USB drive containing the evidence we'd gathered. They assured me I'd have protection during my stay, with a security escort to and from the hospital. Arriving at the hospital, I was escorted to the lab for a blood draw to see if I could be a bone marrow match. On the way to Anna's room, I was stopped by a nurse who recognized me by my pen name and asked me to sign a book for her. It felt surreal. When I entered Anna's room, Emma greeted me with a smile. "Dad, you're early." "Anna, this is our dad, Trevor Williams," she said, introducing me. Anna looked frail, her skin loose and her face tired, yet she radiated hope. "They're rushing the test, and we should have the results in about 30 minutes, I said. "The rest of the family is checking into their hotels, and my parents are getting their bone marrow drawn too. If there's more than one match, the doctor plans to do a double transplant in both arms." Overwhelmed, Anna broke down in tears. I sat beside her, holding her while she regained her composure. Emma quietly took a photo, capturing our shared moment of relief and joy. It was a sight I never expected, or union with my two daughters. "Grandma, Grandpa, come meet my sister." Emma called out. The five of us talked for over an hour until Anna's doctor came in with a smile. "My mother and I are both matches for Anna," I announced, relief flooding my voice. Dr. Hunt looked at us. "Are you both ready to be checked in for surgery at 6 tomorrow morning?" My mom and I nodded, and my dad whispered a quiet thank God under his breath. We prayed for a miracle the whole way up. "Don't you need my parents' permission?" Anna asked, her voice shaky. "Normally, yes, but a court order allows us to proceed if a biological parent or close relative is a match." Dr. Hunt explained, "Your father, Mr. Williams, has arranged to cover any costs not handled by insurance." Emma beamed. "That doesn't surprise me, sis. Legally, Dad had no rights before. But after what Mom and Fred did, he had no choice. He used the courts to make sure nothing could stop this." Just then, a security guard entered, informing us that we were about to be on national news. Anna switched on CNN, where they revealed my identity as a best-selling author with an estimated net worth of $40 million. Emma, Anna, and even Dr. Hunt stared at me, wide-eyed. My parents looked equally shocked. They'd always thought I was just an independent corporate advisor. "Dad, I've read all your books. They're amazing." Anna said, "Still processing." I laughed. When my old life fell apart, I reinvented myself. Writing was my escape, and the first book's success became a turning point. I used my books to tell the truth, to expose the real state of the world, even when it's uncomfortable for people to hear. For the first time in 15 years, I checked into a hospital. My new daughter wanted to share a room with me, but hospital security had other plans, so Emma spent the night running back and forth between 3 different rooms. My dad called family members to update them on the situation, while Diana and Justin, when they arrived after work, faced cold indifference. Anna met them with a firm resolve. "I'm scheduled for surgery tomorrow to get a double bone marrow transplant under a court order," she told them. "How?" Diana asked, unable to hide her shock. "Mom, Dad, my biological father and his mother are both perfect matches. They're donating so I can receive a full transplant," and a reply calmly. "Mom, do you know Logan Hawthorne is? He's your favorite author." "Well, that's Dad's pen name, Trevor Williams." Diana and Justin turned pale. They had hoped to avoid court altogether, assuming this would blow over. But now, seeing my success, they realized I wasn't after money, I wanted justice. I'd always believed in truth and fairness, which had made me a successful agent until they destroyed that career. "Mom, did you know your father's been in FBI custody all day?" Anna asked, a knowing smile on her face. "You might want to check with Grandma to see if he's home yet. Emma and I have a few questions. Care to explain why all this is happening?" "If you're looking for Emma, she's probably either in Dad's room or visiting Grandma Patterson," she added, glancing at her mother with raised eyebrows. Emma and I were in my hospital room discussing how she'd approach her mother when Deanna arrived. Anak on the door interrupted us, and a security guard peeked in. "Mr. Williams, there's a visitor, Sarah Russell," he announced as he opened the door, allowing Sarah to step inside. Sarah had been by my side for 10 years, through thick and thin. She leaned on me through her rough divorce after her husband left her for his assistant, and even now, at 35, she was adjusting to single life, still wearing her wedding ring out of habit. My family adored her, and sometimes I wondered why she hadn't moved on. "What are you doing here?" I asked with a smile. "I'm here to do what I do best, look after you." Dr. Hunt said you'll be here for 3 days at least, and recovery will take a week for light activities. I booked a private jet and hotel for us with a corporate card. Sarah replied, calm as ever. Emma sent me a quick text, FYI Dad, she loves you. She couldn't stay away. I raised an eyebrow, amused. Just then, the guard knocked again. Diana and Justin Bright are here. Will you allow them in? He asked. Sarah stepped in. Only if they're searched first, she insisted. What's your relationship to Mr. Williams? The guard asked Sarah, curious. She's murked. I'm his fiancé, she said, showing her ring with a grin. Emma shot me a knowing look, whispering, "Told you." I laughed, and then Diana and Justin walked in. "Dad, I wouldn't trust these two for a second," Emma warned me. "They're only here to cover their tracks." "You have no idea," Sarah replied. "Your dad's lawyer has footage showing your stepfather receiving checks from your grandfather. They paid in to break up your parents' marriage. In return, he would oversee the family's finances, earning a hefty percentage each year." "How do you know this?" Diana demanded, her face pale. "And who are you?" "Mom, she's Dad's fiancé and a top-notch investigator," Emma said firmly. "Her name's Sarah Russell, and I trust her more than I trust you." Diana's face went white, realizing her daughters were slipping away with nothing she could do. Sarah didn't waver. "It's true, Diana," I said. "I had all video and audio evidence handed over to the FBI, including a letter from your father admitting to paying for those recordings. His hatred for me was so consuming, he didn't care what it cost or who he hurt to get what he wanted." Diana looked at Justin, searching his face for answers, and she found them in his expression. It was true, and she knew it. Diana turned back to me, her voice trembling. "I realize now what I lost when you left, Trevor. You were the only man who ever truly cared about me." She glanced at Sarah. "Here's a word of advice. Don't let anyone manipulate you like I did." Looking back at me, she added, "Trevor, I want to speak to you alone after the surgery. Right now, I need to go home and think. Emma, will you walk me to my car?" Emma looked at me. "I'll be right back, Dad," she promised. "Sarah, keep an eye on him while I'm gone." We watched them leave, and Diana held it together until she stepped outside, then broke down crying. Sarah and I shared a knowing look. Diana had been kept in the dark, but now it was all out in the open. Justin, always privileged and entitled, was stunned into silence, his life in shambles. After they left, I turned to Sarah, who was blushing, a first fur. I felt something in that moment, a shift or recognition that I'd been blind to her feelings for too long. My daughters had awakened something in me, making me realize I'd been living in the background, finding happiness through others instead of creating my own. "Sarah," I began quietly, "we have a lot to discuss while I'm recovering. These last few days have woken me up. I settled for staying on the sidelines, but now I want to be in the game. Trevor, when I got divorced, you were there for me. My kids were young, and you were more of a father to them than their own dad," Sarah replied, her voice soft. "From baseball games to dances, you were always there. You pay me more than anyone else would because you want to make sure my kids are looked after. You go all out on their birthdays, make them feel special, and answer their questions like any father would. They love you, and so do I." Her words hit me hard, along with Emma's. I took her hand, thinking about how far I'd come. "I was betrayed by everyone I trusted," I said, my voice full of emotion. "I protected myself for years without even realizing it. Now I'm ready. Sarah, can we go on our first real date, or is it too late?" She smiled, pulling me close. "Took you long enough, you old fool," she whispered before kissing me. "Annexing the kids to let them know we're officially together." "Pretty confident, aren't you?" I teased, laughing. I texted Emma, thanking her and checking in. She responded, mom shattered. She didn't know any of this. "She's staying away tonight. Let Anna know." Sarah and I went up to Anna's room, where I introduced Sarah as my girlfriend. We filled Anna and on what had happened and shared Emma's update. Just as we finished, my sister Claire entered the room. "I had to see this with my own eyes," Claire said, grinning. "Sarah, what are you doing here?" I started to explain, but Claire caught me off. "He finally figured it out, didn't he?" she asked, chuckling. "Took him long enough. Anna, this is your Aunt Claire," I said, gesturing to the man following her. "And that's your Uncle Lou, Claire's husband. You'll learn fast that we Williamses speak our minds, like it or not." I excused myself to the nurse's station, where I texted Emma, asking if she knew Anna's pizza preferences. She replied, "Everything but anchovies," and I quickly ordered 3 extra-large pizzas and a few 2-liter sodas for delivery. I also called Dad, asking him to bring Mom up in half an hour for an impromptu pizza party. We may have ignored the no eating for 8 hours rule, but everyone was too caught up in the excitement to care. The head nurse came into quiet astound, but left with a slice of pizza and a smile. Later, she stopped me in the hall, saying, "Your family spirit has lifted everyone on this floor. I can't thank you enough." At 4 a.m., my mom and I were prepped for the operation. We held hands, supporting each other until the anesthesia took over. When I woke up, the procedure was done. Now came the waiting and hoping. Dr. Hunt informed everyone that the bone marrow transfer went smoothly, though it would take a few hours to know if it had taken. Relieved, most of the family began packing up to go home. Sarah, ever watchful, teased me. "You're the worst patient, restless, impatient, and as stubborn as a bull," she joked. "You're about to get a bad reputation if you don't calm down." "Good to hear my mom's doing well," I replied. Sarah nodded, handing me my phone, which was buzzing with messages from her kids. When does she get her engagement ring, Dad? Read one. And when do we get to meet our new sisters? I showed Sarah the text with a smile. Your kids are pretty sharp. They know you're watching out for us, she said, reading the messages. They've always seen you as their dad, and most of their friends wish their dads were like you. I felt tears welling up in her eyes as she looked at me. Looks like we're not in for a long engagement, I said, smiling. Have you heard from the twins? I asked. Emma and her mom are with Anna, Sarah replied. Anna's doing well, considering everything. She's still a little groggy but asking lots of questions. Emma filled her in on the pizza party, and she's excited about planning a girls' day with her aunt and grandmother once she's up to it. All right, I said, let me find my pants. I wanted to go see her and check on my mom too. The nurses tried to stop me, saying it was too soon after surgery, but I insisted in Sarah, and I made our way down the hall, hand in hand. Surprisingly, the pain was manageable. The moment we entered Anna's room, I noticed the improvement. Her complexion looked healthier in the sparkle, and her eyes nearly brought tears to mine. Who are Sonia and Sam Russell? Emma asked curiously. Those are my kids, Sarah replied, smiling. They're 13 and 11. Why? They both sent me a friend request on Facebook this morning, Emma replied. So did Anna. You both should read what they sent me, I said, handing Emma my phone. She read the message, smiling, then passed it to Anna. I'll need that back, I said, so I can add their numbers to my contacts. Diana then asked if she could speak to me privately, so we stepped out to the waiting area. Trevor, she began, I had a long talk with my mother last night. She remembered how much Dad despised you, but she never expected it to go this far. My daughters want to finish the school year here and then come live with you. They want to change their last name to yours. They feel what Fred and I did is beyond forgiveness. Diana took a shaky breath. I can't argue with them. They've made it clear that if I refuse, they'll take it to court. They don't trust me anymore, and I can't blame them. Will you let them come? You know my family, Diana? They'd never let me refuse, no matter my feelings, I replied. I'll gladly take them in, and so will Sarah. We'll just need a bigger house. I'll drop the suit against you if you agree to joint custody. But the case against the rest of your family will continue. The twins are old enough to decide the rest. Diana nodded, agreeing to joint custody. I offered to cover the cost of their name change, but she declined. We walked back into Anna's room, and the girls looked up, watching us closely. Sarah, I said with a grin, looks like we're going to need at least a 6-bedroom house. Sarah laughed, and the girls cheered. Diana smiled weakly. Girls, she said, your father and I agree. You'll get what you want. If Sarah's on board, I'll call the lawyer tomorrow to start the process for your name change. Trevor, Sarah asked, are you ready for this? A house full of teenagers. No one's ever ready, I replied, chuckling, but we adapt. I'm just getting used to having 2 holes share my last name. Make that 4, Sarah added, laughing. Sonia and Sam want you to adopt them too. They've already started signing your names as Williams. Call Roger Mauser's firm to start the paperwork, then text the kids to let them know the plan I said. Let's find out what you're going to have the best school so we know where to look for our new home. Emma picked up her phone, putting a call on the speaker. Hello? Sonia's voice came through. Who is this and what do you want? This is Emma, your soon-to-be older sister, she said, amused. Is Sam with you? Can you prove that? Sonia asked, suspicious. Dad taught us not to trust calls or messages from unknown sources without verification. Are you scamming me or something? Sarah joined in, laughing. Sonia, this is Sarah. I'm marrying your dad. You're talking to Trevor's daughter, Emma. Soon, we'll all be Williamses. Emma and Anna are changing their last names, and your dad has already started the adoption process for you and Sam. About time. Sam chimed in. How's Anna doing? Sarah and I share a smile listening to the kids. She squeezed my hand. It was our first real moment as a blended family. I'm doing better, and I replied, her voice bright. I'll send you a text so you can save my number. Emma, Anna, our dad's the only father we've ever known, Sonia said, her voice sincere. Mom's loved him for years. When we get together, you'll have to accept that we're all siblings now, nothing more and nothing less. Sam and I won't let anything come between them. My daughters quickly agreed, and Sarah, wiping away tears, looked at me. They've got your values and sense of family, she whispered. You should be proud. We said our goodbyes for now and headed to visit my mom. My dad was with her, and they looked surprised when we walked in. Mom, I said, you're up and about already. Have you seen Anna? She's looking a lot better. Yes, we saw her, my mom replied. Her color's coming back, and she seems brighter, but it's early yet. We need to have a serious family conversation if you're up for it, I said. We're not going anywhere, Dad replied, nodding. Let's hear it. Anna and Emma will be moving in with me after the school year. They'll be changing their last name to ours. Diana agreed to joint custody, and the girls insisted on the name change. That's wonderful news, my parents said, grinning. That's not all, Sarah added, smiling. Your son has finally decided to make an honest woman out of me. The Elizabeth, are you ready to help plan a wedding? My mom teared up and my dad grinned, clearly approving. And I'll be adopting Sonia and Sam, so they'll take my last name too, I said. Sarah, and I will start looking for a new house as soon as we get back. What finally knocked some sense into you, my dad asked, laughing. We all knew how you two felt about each other. I've been trying to get your mom's approval to knock some sense into you for years. Carl, behave yourself, my mom said, chuckling. Sarah, have you thought about the wedding plans? We haven't planned much yet, Sarah replied. But since we're blending families, we should make it a family affair. I'd love for Claire to be my maid of honor, Trevor's best man, his brothers-in-law's users, Anna and Emma as bridesmaids, Sonia as the flower girl, and Sam as the ring bearer. Dad, would you walk me down the aisle with my father? My dad grinned. Depends on who's footing the bill, and if the reception bar's got a good stock of Jim Beam, he said with a laugh. What do you think, Trevor? Sarah asked, her eyes shining. It's perfect. It'll bring us all together, I replied. If that's what you want, let's make it happen. Shall we invite Diana? Sarah asked. Both my parents firmly said no, but I held up a hand. Mom, Dad, the media is going to reveal a lot in the coming weeks. I'm suing the federal government, Diana's parents, and her husband. I believe Diana was as much a victim as I was. I paid the price years ago, and now Diana's facing consequences we can only imagine. She thinks she's lost her daughters forever. Inviting her might help her reconnect with them and allow everyone to move forward. Sarah and my parents looked at me surprised. Where did that wisdom come from? My dad asked, genuinely curious. These past few days have taught me a lot, I replied, squeezing Sarah's hand. Emma's arrival reminded me what life is all about. We returned to my hospital room, and I quickly fell asleep, drained from the surgery. Sarah stayed by my side, watching the news. Fred Bride had been arrested for lying to the FBI. The man who placed a contract on my life had turned state's evidence, and my lawyer had released details of my firing from the FBI, which prompted an internal investigation. When I woke, Sarah filled me in. Dr. Hunt informed us that my mother and I would be discharged the next day. He'll leave follow-ups to remove the stitches, he said. Anna is doing better than expected. The big question is how she'll respond as we gradually reduce her medications. We talked with my parents, who decided to stay in the city until Anna was stable. They'd fly back with us on the private jet, while the bus driver would head back on his own over the next few days. The media spent hours analyzing the lies, betrayal, and political schemes that had led to the breakdown of my marriage and career. A full day was dedicated to exposing how Diana's father had manipulated her into believing baseless rumors. Diana was being scrutinized publicly, with every misstep under the spotlight. Sarah and I went to visit Anna one last time before we headed home. Dr. Hunt proudly announced she was well on her way to recovery. The security released my publisher and I had been awaiting had been granted, likely thanks to someone not liking the negative press surrounding the government's past dealings with me. Within 2 weeks, over 1 million copies would hit the market. 2 first editions arrived overnight, and after I signed them, Sarah wrapped them in a shopping bag. We made sure Emma was in the room when we arrived. Your dad and I have set a wedding date the first weekend in August, Sarah said, smiling. Your Aunt Claire will be my maid of honor, and I'd love for you two to be my bridesmaids. Anna's face lit up. Absolutely, she exclaimed. Sarah, when I first showed up in Dad's office, I was terrified, but you recognized me right away and said, you must be Diana's daughter. It stunned me. You accepted me immediately. I'd be honored to be in your wedding, and I'd love to call you Mom. The 3 of them hugged, and it was incredible to see Anna practically leap out of bed with excitement. When things quieted down, I handed each of them a signed first edition of my book, inscribed with, for one of the 2 brightest stars in my life who calls me Dad. With love, Logan Hawthorne, Trevor Williams in brackets. Anna's face lit up as she unwrapped her copy, astonished by the gift. This is the biggest one yet, over 600 pages. She flipped open the cover, read my note, and started crying. Dad, you've done so much already. I didn't need this. She threw her arms around me, sobbing. Before you came into my life, the doctors here said I only had days left. Emma knew it too. I'm not sure what led her to look through the attic, but I'm so glad she did. It brought us to you. Emma watched us smiling. Dad, you should know, Dr. Hunt believes if Anna had only received a single transplant, it wouldn't have worked. The double transplant shocked her body into responding. In just 6 days, she's gained 10 pounds. I held Anna close, reflecting on how grateful I was. Emma, you and the family brought me back to life, I said, voice thick with emotion. Speaking of Mom, Emma replied, she's filed for divorce and is in therapy now, dealing with years of deception. She understands what you went through as deeply as Sheen. She said it's something only someone who's been through it can fully grasp, a living nightmare. It'll take her time to learn to trust again, I replied, nodding. Family support can only do so much. Sometimes trust requires a leap of faith. For me, that leap was when Emma walked through my office door. Thank God you did, Sarah added with a smile. I was afraid I'd end up an old maid, waiting for you to come around. Now, girls, stand by your dad so I can get a few photos, Sarah said, taking out her phone. I'm framing the best one for his desk. When we stepped off the plane, we were greeted by Sarah's parents and kids. Sonia and Sam nearly knocked me down with excitement, and their joy was contagious. My dad couldn't stop grinning, especially when they called me Dad. Sam's family dynamics now mirrored mine, 2 older sisters and 1 younger one. Sonia hugged my mom, saying, I'm so happy you're going to be my grandma now. I reflected on how quickly life had transformed, with unexpected blessings at every turn. Sarah and I decided to put off any major plans until after the wedding. I trusted Sarah to handle the new house search, freeing me to start writing my first fiction book. My previous works had been exposes on corruption and cover-ups, but this was different. We stayed in touch with the twins, and Sarah found a beautiful 28-year property with a barn that needed a bit of work. Anna continued to improve, returning to school part-time. We hired a firm to design a house, steel and brick construction with an outdoor kitchen, a spacious patio, a pool, and a 4-baked garage. With Sarah reducing her office hours, I worked closely with an editor on my new book, managing to write over 300 pages. I decided to publish it under my real name. Diana used my lawyer to finalize her divorce from Justin, securing alimony and coverage for education costs. My legal cases went into mediation as the opposition lost their resolve. Sonia, Sam, Sarah, and I eagerly awaited the twins' arrival after their last school day. Sam spotted them pulling up the new driveway, and we all went outside to greet them. As they stepped out of the Explorer, I could hardly tell Anna and Emma apart. Anna's recovery was so remarkable. Sarah whispered, we'll figure out who's who. Sam, taking his role as big brother seriously, grabbed their luggage as Sarah showed them around the new house. In my office, 3 copies of my latest book, The Heart Remembers, sat on my desk, a fictionalized version of our own story. Thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care.